welcome to Perspective Shift Spotlight.
How's
it going?
I love it.
Yeah.
Spotlight turned out to be one of my favorite things Frank and I started doing on Perspective Shift.
Yeah.
So Spotlight is where listeners write in about their experiences listening to the podcast and share different synchronicities, different experiences that just let them know that they were on the right path, those little breadcrumbs. And we started doing this because we really wanted people to see that, hey, each of us has our own unique experience. And these little things that happen to us throughout the day, they're happening on purpose, and they're to let us know, hey, you're on the right path. So don't second guess them. Don't try to, be realistic about them, and write them off as unimportant or, oh, that could have just happened as a coincidence. There is no coincidences. Everything that we're talking about on this show is, things that you can personally relate to at home.
Yeah, and that's kind of like what you think of coincidence. Actually, it's a mathematical term. It's 2 points meeting on an axle. Mm-hmm. So we might not know how that came about, but when it does, you actually give it attention. So that's where the learning comes from. So when things do happen, as we're trying to shift our life around, because, okay, we know it doesn't work. And actually we start moving down the road to thinking differently, doing different activities, all of a sudden things start to pop up, and we call coincidences. It doesn't mean accident. It means 2 points meeting on an axle. So it's coexisting, coaxial. They're just coming to a certain point, crossing each other.
I've never heard that. That's cool.
Yeah, that's what. So people, they almost think accident, but there really are no accidents in the world. Mm-hmm. We can be distracted and stuff happens, and we can explain away by blaming the outside world to why this happened. But when you actually start to look at it, but we don't know the true causation of it. But there is a correlation there. So when a coincidence happens, look into it, because it's telling you a story. It's a road sign, if you will.
What we're saying is that there really are no coincidences, guys.
Yeah.
They're really not. Everything that's unfolding is happening exactly like it should be. If something happens, it was supposed to happen that way.
Yeah.
No matter how tough or sad. But
that's what I'm saying is the word coincidence ought not to be looked at as an accident. There are coincidences, but look at them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because you don't want to be like too paradoxical with that.
Yeah.
Because people take the word coincidence and shift it around. But anyway.
So this week on Spotlight, we've got an awesome special guest. He reached out. His name is Adam Aspla. I don't know if we're
Aspa.
Aspa. Yeah. There we go. Pronouncing that correctly.
Hopefully we
but
pronounced
Adam,
his last name.
Yeah, thank you so much for listening. Adam is from Columbus, Ohio, and he wrote to us about one of his little experiences that he had. And he is referencing back when we were talking about that orange episode. Was that with Dan Murphy?
Yeah.
Dan
Murphy, yeah.
He also had an orange experience. And so this was very similar to that, except in his own experience and how
it's Mandarin orange.
Adam experiences. And he wrote in and he titled it Mandarin
Adam,
Orange.
it should have been an apple.
Yeah, I know, right? Come on.
Yeah.
Stick to the right fruit.
How's Eve doing? No, I was kidding. All right.
But thank you for writing in, Adam. Seriously, this meant a lot. We had a fun time reading your story, so we're going to read a little bit of that on air, and then, of course, your story to everybody at home to kind of highlight your breadcrumbs, if you will, to show that you're on the right path. So Adam wrote into us, and he initially starts the email by just kind of talking about he was in his lowest place in life. Things weren't going well. He was drinking, stuff like that, in and out of recovery. And so what he talks about is he's at this low point in his life. And then at this low point in his life is when he kind of stumbles upon this podcast. So I'll just kind of pick it up here. Let me see.
Yeah, there's a lot here, but he actually heard us talk about the was it Michael from Zambia?
Oh yeah,
we talked about him, so it kind of gave him the idea, because Michael was also at the time when he wrote in, it was like 228 days sober, and he was going through a lot of difficulties. So the correlation between the two and this story is why Adam kind of related, and he's going to add it. So again, thank you, Adam, because these type of stories telling you went through an alcoholic is still, I think, still dealing with it. But it's a process.
Absolutely.
Life is a process. It's not to get it's not about getting to the end. It's about going through it. It's something that's teaching us.
And Adam shares, he's got anxiety and depression and this, struggle that he was dealing with. And guys, I think every one of us at home, like Frank and I both have experienced extreme anxiety, extreme depression. This is something each of us all goes through. We just experience it in our own specific ways, through our own narrative and our own experiences. And we think it's so only like specific to us that we're the only ones going. Yeah, we're alone. We're not going through this. Everybody is going through this. So Adam, thank you for writing in. Thank you for sharing this story, because there's so many people who can relate to this type of stuff. So what he kind of talks about, his history, and I don't want to share too much of that just because it's personal, but he ends by saying, I'm not trying to have a sob story here. And you're not, and I'm glad he highlights that. He's just trying to paint a picture of where he was at in life when he discovered this podcast and began listening. So what he says is, I'm going to start reading now. He says, it was a cold and depressing November and December for me, you guys. And
sounds like a Stephen King movie.
I know, right? and for me, guys, and perspective shifts and the guests you guys feature and have live on the show have truly been a bright spot for me during these tough times. They've made me laugh, and it's given me some hope and some inspiration. Some of the topics and guests I'm familiar with, others are new to me, and this podcast has become something that I look forward to, and I try actually to incorporate many of these concepts into my life instead of just thinking about doing them. And this is the key. We just talked about this in our Shakti episode that we were doing. Action is key. You want to take, and you want to visualize, you want to feel this experience, but you must take action. Taking action is crucial in order to have the experiences or achieve the goals or find your desires. You got to take action.
Yeah, and the one thing I want to add to, because as he's talking about, he said when he found our podcast, things turned around. Actually, things turned around prior to him finding the podcast, or else he wouldn't have found the podcast. It's such a subtle thing. It's like when you're done moving down a path that is no longer working for you, this is when things open up. So it just happened that it was our podcast, not something else. But nonetheless, remember that you were already in that state for this to show up. Yep. That's why it showed up.
Great point. Yeah. And I love that you bring that up, because that's important. Everything that's going on, you're creating type of thing.
Yeah.
All right. So here we go. So I've been doing better now. I've been working hard to change my outlook. I've been diving deeper into concepts and the folks that you present on the show. I'm starting to practice some meditation, and I'm even doing the cold showers things, and it has been very beneficial. Mentally, I feel much better. I haven't completely stopped drinking, but I've really tried to scale it back, and I hope to eliminate it from my life again soon. But I have hope, guys, and listening to your show has definitely helped me with that, so thank you. Having hope is key.
Yeah, it is.
Key, because that's what brings us out of the depths of this anxiety, this depression, etc. You have to know that there's more out there for you, and there is.
Yeah, you have to know it's possible. This isn't it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So here we go. So let me tell you guys my story with the manifestation of a mandarin orange. In the parentheses, mine turned out to be a mandarin orange.
Yeah.
So going back for those who are just tuning in now, we talked about this series, this visualization technique in which we all visualize an orange. And Frank likes to bring up something simple and easy for us to visualize, like an orange, because there's no want or desire or attachment to that. If it shows
easy
up,
attainable, yeah.
Yeah. If it shows up, great. If it doesn't, whatever. And so when you start practicing these types of visualization techniques, using things that don't matter and that you're not, you don't need to happen, it's very easy to watch them spring up in your life. Yeah. So that's what the orange story that Adam is here referencing. He's talking about, Dan Murphy wrote in also about, finding and seeing his orange. So this is his experience, except his turned out to be a mandarin orange. So he says, in January, I became an Instacart shopper. Not a lot of hours in my regular job, and was my regular job for a little. So I'm shopping for Instacart. I'm doing it a lot. I'm driving all over the place, and I'm shopping, and I'm listening to Perspective Shift in my ear pods as I'm going through the store. I'm listening to all this talk about oranges, and I'm constantly seeing them everywhere. I'm listening to these stories, and there's oranges all around me. I'm seeing them every day. buying them for customers, bringing them to other people's houses. But how is this damn orange going to come to me? I kept asking myself. But it was fun. He's like, I like the concept and would think about it from time to time. So after a few weeks of this, I kind of forgot about it. And my dad and I go to pick up my son from the bus stop. And we're walking back, and my son mentions that he wanted some oranges. This is not a typical request by my son, by the way. And my dad says, no problem, I'll pick some up later. And I'm not even thinking about it in this moment. You know, it's one of those in one ear, out the other type of things. My mind is elsewhere. I just, kind of going on with my day. It's not until later, whoops, here we go. It's not until later that night that I open up the fridge, and there they were. Mandarin oranges. That was the way the universe brought one to me, and it was so cool. Something clicked in that moment for me, and I couldn't wait to see where this road takes. You guys have really inspired me to start up a podcast of my own.
Oh, all right.
And I really think I'm going to do it. I've been thinking about it all winter. I'm pretty much ready to go. Just need to sit down and press record. I'm anxious and excited about this. Let's see. But I feel it will be worth the while. Not trying to write a novel, but I knew this would be long-winded. I really wanted to share this stuff with you guys. So before I go, I want to ask you guys about a couple of... okay, so he mentions a few different books here. That's all good. That's stuff for fun.
And actually, we're going to... we'll tell him right now. Adam, we're actually going to be discussing the 4 agreements next week.
Don Miguel Ruiz.
Yeah. So we're going to do him. Week. Yeah, he's great. And both the... Thich Nhat Hanh.
Yeah, so thank you for writing in. This is how we'll also bring guests on live for our weekly episodes. So anyways, I just wanted to reach you guys and let you know that I'm out here listening, and it's been helpful. I can't wait to hear you guys and what we'll talk about in the future. So first of all, thank you, Adam.
There you go.
I love that you specifically brought this one up because it's so easy for people out there to generalize stuff and go, oh, the only reason this happened was because my son wanted oranges, and my dad happened to, pick some up at the store when he was coming back. And we try to reverse engineer it and say, oh, this is just a series of events that has no meaning whatsoever. This could have happened, regardless if I was thinking or visualizing an orange. And that is not the case. This story that you shared is absolutely you influencing your reality, and I think that is so cool to watch. And I've had similar experiences myself with these little type of things that I throw out in the universe, and then they happen, and I'm like, oh my God. And I know this surreal feeling you're talking about when you opened that fridge and you looked and you saw it and it all just clicked for you, and you were like, oh my God, I got my orange. And it all makes sense. And that is absolutely the universe throwing you a breadcrumb going, you're on the right path.
Well, it's not throwing a breadcrumb. That is the path.
Yep.
That is it. So don't look at the orange as a little thing. The universe doesn't recognize the difference between a Ferrari and an orange. Yep. You and I give it that. So as we ease up the definition of certain things, we will start to bring them into our experience. But we have to loosen up. Again, like an orange is something that's easy obtainable in the world we live in right now. Not so much a Ferrari in the belief structure. But when we overcome that, the Ferrari will show up if that's what you want to experience. Yeah. And, so gestation for the Ferrari might be a little bit longer than the orange, but nonetheless, it shows you this system of input of imagination, sending it off into the universe, and then letting it go, because Adam let it go and then forgot about it, and then one night he opened up the refrigerator and they were there. So when you let it go, because if you keep fretting over it, what's happening is you're trying to figure out how, and you keep pushing away, and you have to let it go, trust it, because if you knew something was coming, you wouldn't be waiting at the door for it. Just like when you order something from Amazon. It's coming on Tuesday. Okay, it's Saturday. I'm not going to sit at the door till Tuesday. I'll just check the door on Tuesday when it shows up.
Yeah.
Yeah. I trust that it's coming.
Yeah.
With no doubt, and it shows up.
And that's the beauty on this story. It doesn't matter the size of it or what, but just this experience, I'm sure so many of us can relate to at home, which is when we least expect something is when it shows up.
Yeah. And even before the orange, the Mandarin orange he's talking about, you could start seeing there was synchronicity already happening out of his life, such as, And I'm not like, it could have been any other show. It could have came across Eckhart Tolle or something like that on his own. But nonetheless, it led him down this path of synchronicity because he was asking for it in his imagination. Yeah. And it probably went like, oh, this is no longer working for me. I need to get my life in order. I want to feel better. All these things, because he recognized it. We all recognize when things aren't working. But we try to figure out, well, what would work? I'm like, well, let that go. What would it feel like if it was working out? So he generated this feeling, and then all of a sudden he discovered perspective shift. Could have easily discovered 100 other podcasts out there that are similar, because we're not here to take all the recognition, because we're all in this together. Every human being on this planet is in together. When we start waking up to that idea, obviously Adam is sharing his story, and we're sharing. It's kind of now he's like family with us.
Exactly.
And we realize when we share our stories from our heart, we realize we aren't alone. And because when we think we're alone, we just shut everything down. We don't talk about it. We don't express it. Mm-hmm. And we realize the possibility isn't there, but it is there.
One thing too I want to share with Adam is the reason you had the feeling to create a podcast is because you were supposed to. The anxiety or the fear of, does anybody want, to listen to me, etc. Frank and I had the same types of thing, when we started this show. And at the end of the day, absolutely, your mind wouldn't create, the idea, the excitement of a podcast and of pursuing something unless there was an audience that was out there that needed to hear it.
Yeah.
So please, Adam, make your podcast. Reach back out to us when that podcast is created. Let's have you on Perspective Shift as a featured guest on the show so we can help you support your podcast. That is the point of what we're doing here. That's the point of Spotlight. That's the point of Perspective Shift is this is all a community, guys. Let's share our stories and go, oh, shit, I can't believe that happened. Yeah. Oh, my God, that's so beautiful. That's an amazing story. Every single one of us can learn something from each other, and it helps us grow in our own individual path as well as a community. And so start your podcast, and Frank and I hope that you can be featured on our page, or on our podcast together, and we hope we're your first feature.
Yeah.
We would be honored to do something like that. We'd love to bring you on the show, and we can't thank you enough for writing in.
Yeah, and when it comes down to do a podcast, don't overthink it. Just press the play button and start recording.
That's what Frank and I do too.
Don't try to perfect it. It will expand as it goes on.
Yeah.
And just natural. People want natural. They really do.
That's why when Frank and I get together each week, we'll talk about these different types of concepts or these things we want to mention, but there is not one pre-written recorded line on any of a podcast or on any Perspective Shift material, and we do that purposely.
There's people out there like, maybe you should edit some stuff.
Really, guys, we couldn't tell. No, but seriously, it's these like beautiful moments get captured when it is no filter, all natural, raw, real discussion, stuff that you just couldn't pre-plan. And it's those moments that we try to capture, and it's those moments that you guys listening really are connecting with. This is a conversation between two friends, or multiple friends, however you want to look at it. And at the end of the day, we're all on our own journey, and we're all on a journey together.
Yeah.
And that's remembering who we are, and making our way back to source.
Yep. We're one universal mind having different experiences. All right, Adam, hey, thanks for writing in. We love this type of stuff.
Yeah. Thanks, Adam. And best of luck to you and your son. It sounds like he's 10 years old, so, we're always rooting for you and your son.
Yeah. All right. Good luck. God bless you.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
See you soon.
Peace out.